Hi, everybody. It's Elaine Hamilton from the Reiki Centre. And in the Chit Chat this month, we have the lovely Hilary Lee, who is going to take us through her own journey with Reiki. And actually, we were talking before we started recording of a whole bunch of different themes that we might touch on. We'll see what happens. But how I always like to get started is to have people meet you, Hilary, just a little bit of a background, I guess, in terms of your own Reiki journey, and then we'll just go from there. So welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks, Elaine. So I came to Reiki really in a period of my life where I was in this corporate career, a pretty stressful corporate career. I was flying around, had two small children, two small boys, hectic boys, and my husband was sort of sometimes not clear that he had two small children. So we went to Bali one day and it was so knackered. And we stayed in a hotel, which is unusual for us. We usually stay in a sort of villa or a house. And so I took advantage of this hotel and I went to a Reiki session. I'd never heard of it, actually. I'd never heard of Reiki. It just looked like something that I needed at that time. So I had to go to this thing. I said, right, look after the children for an hour, just an hour, so don't explode. And then I just went off to this session and it was just incredible. And I felt during this session, felt this massive weight just being lifted off my chest. I don't know what Reiki he was practicing. It was similar to some of the techniques that we use, but I really, this palpable sense of weight or emotion just being lifted off. And actually afterwards I was quite angry. So it obviously uncorked something. Anyway, so some time went by after that. And I just started thinking, because I'm quite a left brain person in my job. So I was an analyst, I'm doing strategy, I'm kind of using data to help businesses build their business, build their innovation portfolios, etc., pipelines. And I fundamentally as a person am very, I'd say, creative, but logically brained, but also very looking for the big picture, always looking quite conceptual. And I felt that again, that was that sort of disconnect. So I don't know, it must have sparked something in me, or maybe that was the weight that was lifted off, because I've been living my life as this sort of left brain robot, and actually very far from who I am really as a person, but I'd forgotten who that was. So that was really why I came to Reiki. I thought, this is a tool that I can use very easily. I can use without sort of having to buy into any dogma or any kind of religion. It was just this fantastic, easy, I would say, entrance into or investigation into sort of exploring who I was. So that's why I picked it up. And I don't know how I came across you, because I don't think we'd ever met. And you were offering an online course at that point. That was 2015. And I took that up. And again, it was online. I was doing this job. It suited me. So I think that online offer was obviously critical for me to entering into Reiki at that point. After I did that, I found quite a lot of shifts. I went back to work and started feeling very off, because what Reiki does, it really pushing me off. It was just telling me very loudly, oops, you came because, this is not for you. And I was really angry about that, because that was very, very uncomfortable and very inconvenient. It was an inconvenient truth. I didn't want to hear it, because I was doing my job and I had my family and and I was really totally bought into this kind of little hamster wheel that I was on. So I sort of ditched it. I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. So I ditched it for a while. And
ditched. Let me clarify. Ditched Reiki or ditched your dog?
Yeah, ditched Reiki.
Reiki. Okay.
Yeah,
interesting, because it was like, nah, not looking at that.
I don't want, need that, don't want that. I probably need it, but I don't want it. But of course, as you know, keeps kind of hitting you in the face, doesn't it? And it was just so obvious. It was like 2017. You'd gone by then. You'd gone back to the UK. Then after that, we'd obviously met. And did with Karen, lovely Karen Taylor, my Reiki 2. And again, once I had the symbols, I was really off. Then I was there. Then I was in it. And actually, and I remember you always saying every time we ever spoke or you had a session that it will really change your life, and it really did. You said most of you who are doing Reiki 3, because I did my Reiki 2, my Reiki 3, then my master's with you. And I remember at Reiki 3, you saying, this your life, everybody in this room, you're going to be transformed, basically. You're not going to be the same again. And you said that at the beginning before we had the attunement.
Yeah.
And I was really this close to running. It was like, oh my God, what am I doing? Because you know what's coming.
Yeah.
And it did. Yeah, I mean, exactly as you said, not specific details, but certainly the idea that you step in this room, you enter into this kind of space or conscious part of consciousness, and you've unlocked the door. You ain't going back. And it was pretty a bit scary, I would say. No, not scary. I was a little fearful, apprehensive, because obviously fear of the unknown. But it was too late, and I knew that I just knew that I had to keep going,
Well, it's one of those. I think it is one of those illusions of control, right?
Illusions,
that you think you have the control to make the choice to stay or run, but you don't. And it's kind of like, even though we say it, it's like, actually, once you're in the room, there's no way you're running, even though you might think you might want to run. But it's almost that whole thing of the ego is finally able to go, all right, I'm going to just give into this, even though I had no choice in the first place. There's a coalescent, or you know what I mean? And I think that surrender, or that letting go, or that acceptance really helps.
Yeah, no, you're so right. And I think that's, as we talk about the Reiki journey and what it's done for me, that's definitely one of the key things, because I'm a control person. I kind of had everything controlled, what I looked like, what my image was, how I was conducting myself at work, which was very different who I am as a person. And that has been the life lesson, is like, we have no control. And the more you let go, and you kept saying to me this during my master's course as well, let go. These are all your preconceived beliefs, your limiting beliefs. And of course that takes a long time, and a lifetime probably, to kind of be aware of those. But once you do, and you let go, and you kind of fall and just trust, that it's the trust thing that I had a real issue with, because I didn't, barely just learning to trust myself, let alone, anything else. So that was the support of the Reiki, I think, that really shifted me from being a cynical person, cynical and sarcastic. I thought I was really funny, but actually I was just, just a bit cynical, really, a bit jaded, and covered up my pain with my sense of humor. And became a much more open person, so exactly that. Let go, became open, and wow, God, it's so much better living like this.
Right.
Oh my God, I can't tell you, it's life-changing. That was the transformation, living a life.
And don't you look back, don't you kind of look back at the masking, right? At like how you have to stick on your armor before you go to work, and then the amount of energy you need to put in, and then you're wondering why you're so exhausted at the end of the day, because the amount of energy just to maintain the persona, where behind that persona you're just screaming. Wow.
It's incredible. And for so many years, I mean, my career was like, actually, since I was very small, we all know, wounded child, it comes from background, etc. I don't need to go on, bang on about that, because we all have it. But that realization that I'd been started doing that at a very early age, like about 3, from my as soon as I could, as long as I could remember, I was shaping that, and my environment was helping shape that, and I was making choices relative to the environment I was in. We all have it. We're relative to our external view. My internal view was trying to fit into the external view. Whereas my internal view, because everyone thought I was a bit strange, so that was not an acceptable thing to be. A bit off. Not well. Some people might say not in a good way, but more a bit batty than a bit slightly. I don't even know how to describe it, really. I'd have to ask somebody else.
That's great. Yeah, but I think we're all I think those
Yeah,
of us in the Reiki world are all pretty batty, to be
yeah,
fair.
exactly. And that's hypersensitivity. I think they now call it a, highly sensitive person, but that
Yeah.
sensitivity and the recognition that you're taking in so much, and you haven't got the hardware when you're young to be able to
No.
process that, all this sensorially, but also just from a brain perspective, a neuroscientifically perspective, there's too much coming in. My
Yeah.
filter wasn't on. Just as you said, so I actually started that process around about 3. So it took me till I was like 50 by the time I got my shit together.
That's a lot, right? And so, okay, so you realized going through the Reiki journey, you're like, oh my God, I've got all this masking. And then what's been happening since then?
Okay, so I've gone from this kind of career person flying around the world, senior leadership team, helping companies uh, build more shit, sell more crap. To somebody who decided, well, I can't, that whole sense of fragmentation, I obviously just can't do that, because I can't look at myself in the mirror. And that was the major disconnect there, right? Because I'm actually doing something that's not useful. So part of it sort of showed me that what I needed to do was just be honest with myself, and that I was the kind of person that couldn't go to a job and separate that from who I am in real life. And that was, given that I basically work as a problem solver, the big problem in the world was the fact that we're all feeling separate. So therefore we're making terrible choices about the environment and nature and how separate humans are from that. And the education system is a big one for me, because although I was quite academic, it still didn't feel like it was fit for somebody who, with my kind of left right brain. So I started to realize, and I had my own children, and 2 of them, they're also quite sensitive boys, some struggles, and you're like, wow, there's a lot of crap that needs fixing here. And as I'd say, fundamentally, I'm a problem solver. So as a problem solver, for me, it was like, well, the problem is the big picture is all screwed up, and then I, as an integral cog in the sort of big sphere, is also has to realign with that. So that was it. So I realized that I have to work on myself, because I am consciousness in human form. So I needed to do that to be able to then feel at peace or balanced. Yeah.
Okay.
I'd say more peaceful, actually. For me, it's more about harmony than balance. I mean, I don't mind being a bit off balance, but it's a feeling of harmoniousness, feeling of peace.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. I had exactly the same thing when I was in the corporate world. I was like, I can't keep contributing to the system that I know is so flawed. I just can't. It just made me nauseous, actually. I was like, I just cannot be part of this, because there's a certain amount of faking. Like, you go around the world and there's the small talk faking, and there's the this and that. And I'm kind of fine with all that. I'm like, whatever, it's kind of amusing. It doesn't harm anybody. But then as soon as you start, well, certainly some of the accounts that I had were harmful, because they were telling people that they weren't enough unless they had this product, or unless they had this or that. And I was like, that is just bollocks, that's ridiculous. How can someone be more whole because they're driving a special brand of car? I'm like, what? That just makes no sense to me.
It's really absurd, isn't it? You're like,
and I think when you're in the corporate world, I mean, obviously there's a lot of corporations doing great stuff, and there's lots of, now I'm in being in mental health, kind of, even though some of the mental health stuff I do also is like, oh, well, that's bullshit. But there's enough of the stuff I'm telling people that I think, well, this is overall helpful.
Yeah, it's overall more helpful than what you're doing previously.
Yeah, and more helpful than not doing it. So then I'm kind of like, okay, I can get up and out of bed in the morning, but
for you, right? Because I mean, a lot of people do that, and it's fine. I've got loads of friends still in the corporate world; they're fine with it. And I think it's that's the thing. It's not overall that's bad. It's that for me, I just couldn't do it. Exactly like you, I just couldn't. I remember I did some contract work, and I was walking into, and it was one of the after I'd given up my job, and I was going on the tube in the morning, MRT, And that felt like wading through treacle, and I had to listen to like chanting to be able to even get in the door. And energetically, it was just so off. It was going again, the screaming. What are you doing?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we know, right? I mean, that's why we do it. We know.
Yeah.
It's not for everybody, but
And it can take a while, can't it? Like I do remember
yeah.
as I was transitioning out of the corporate, I kept on putting myself back into the situations because one, the money is a lot better, let's face it, right? So it's quite difficult.
Well, there is money.
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty
There's
difficult.
money on there. Yeah.
Making a living
Uh,
out of the matrix is freaking difficult. So it's like the money is in the matrix. So you're kind of like, oh shit. So I kept on having to, well, I didn't have to, but I kept on thinking I had to keep re-entering. And exactly like you, like the last time I put on a corporate suit, I put it on and I literally like started physically gagging. And that was the last time. At the end of that day, I just took it off and I was like, I actually can't do this to my body anymore. It's just not happening.
Your system is just screaming at you, isn't it? It's your nervous system.
So I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this is actually making
Couldn't
me
be clearer,
physically
could it, really?
Yeah.
Like, no, I've been telling, no, stop.
Yeah.
Oh, well, exactly that. I did go back to, so I got, somebody called me around 2020, just before COVID. I can't remember when COVID was. I think during a big job. I was like, oh, I'm really, ego again. I'm great at that. I can do all of those things. And they're like, well, the company's a bit of a, not in great shape, and and of course I got there, and it was I wasn't sold a puppy, I mean, I knew what I was getting into, but I got there and it was like, yeah, okay, this is a great job, and I had a really nice boss, and it's still not okay. So I just said to him very quickly, I think it was a matter of weeks, really. I just said, look, I know this is gonna, I stayed for a year, but this is not gonna, this is not, I kept trying to go back in, and as you say, it's great to have some money, but then at the end of the day, yeah, the money, the fear of financial, the lack of financial stability was very, very hard for me.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, that was the hardest thing, really. Yeah,
I have to be honest. I still have it though. Like
still,
even
yeah,
now, it's almost like, before it felt like if I didn't have money, and maybe this is coming back to the trust thing, if I didn't have enough money, I would like not survive.
Yeah.
Whereas now, and again, this is maybe just through the process of experience, it's like somehow or other, and this is the weird thing that I've noticed year after year after year, is that there's always enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that to me is really freaky. Like, I don't even know where it comes from half the time. I'm like, what is happening? Like at the end of the year, I'm doing my taxes and I'm like, oh, there was enough. I don't even know how I kind of scrabbled it all together. And so over the years, I've kind of just learned, I haven't learned to trust it, but I've kind of learned to trust it. You know what I mean? It's like, it's okay somehow.
Yeah. I mean, I try and remind myself that I can trust that, because exactly as you said, it's always okay. It's been okay.
Yeah.
Somehow it's been okay. And, okay. So I can also try, because that's the bit that the fear is the bit that holds us all back, isn't it? It's the bit that's we're constantly working on to try and move forward. So, I mean, that's one of the reasons why I started my kind of studio business, my creative work, was that sort of mind expansion. So the more I was unafraid of showing who I was, letting go, being myself, expressing myself, the more I noticed the financial fear also kind of, even though it was ironically should have been more stark because I was earning like literally nothing, it was very clear to me that I had to keep going down that route because my intuition had told me to go down there.
Yeah.
And the more I kind of backed off and kept going, well, I could just do this consulting project, or I could just do this the more distracted I got. And I thought, no, now I have to learn how to build something from scratch and trust myself.
Yeah. Amazing.
And see what happens, And I've got one life. I'm 56 now. So I don't want to be 70 and not have tried something more whole. I've tried something bigger for myself.
Mm.
And it's not about a bigger corporation. It's about a bigger mind, you know, a more open mind. I really needed to do that. I think to push myself creatively, push myself intellectually, push myself in all sorts of uncomfortable directions. Yeah, it's kind of just, that's what I've decided I'm going to do. I've kind of nearly slipped off the wagon a few times, but I'm still here. So
So
that's the goal.
how has that been expressing for you?
In terms of what I'm doing during my action,
Well,
my
just
right
in
action.
terms of like I'm curious around the bigger mind. Like what does that mean to you?
Yeah. So for me, it's that, again, everything come back to that sort of, it's the illusion of separateness. It's the Thich Nhat Hanh quote. We are here to awaken from the illusion of separateness. So that's from a sort of spiritual and philosophical perspective. But actually, when you start reading science, there's a guy I follow called David Bohm. He used to work a little bit with Einstein and Oppenheimer, a quantum theorist. And I'm not going to pretend that I know anything about quantum physics. So it's more the kind of the concepts that I buy into. And, you know, he again said that, you know, we're all living in this consciousness. This is a scientist. And, you know, we're just part of the unfolding. So our ability to think and to act on a daily basis is basically part of how we put out into the world or put out into the universe what is created. So I realized that, you know, what I create and what I not just think, because I'm great at thinking and just keep it inside me and shutting my mouth because I'm, you know, not particularly comfortable in front of people, ironically, given my job, my previous job. So it's that idea that I've got all this stuff, and actually I realized my block was my here, you know, my voice, and being able to put it back out into the put it back out there, you know. So I was blocked. I was like doing this part of the circle, then it was all sticking here, and I wasn't completing that sort of that unfolding. He calls it the implicate order. So it's like enfolding and unfolding. So everything that we're doing, we're thinking, we're feeling, you know, the more we're putting it out and expressing it some way, the more we become what we're thinking. So this is where I start like looking at my thoughts, you know, whereas before I might be a bit cynical, a bit negative, probably quite negative, I would say. As a cover, my cover was quite negative. I'm not going out there being all happy sunny, because I'm not actually a very happy kind of happy sunny, but not in a sort of
I think you're
gloomy,
very happy, Sunny.
in a gloomy kind of Nick Cave kind of, you know, bit gothic, you know. What do the kids call it now? Emo. So I realized that any thoughts I was having, so that's what I've been working on. So how it expresses for me is that I am conscious, and I try and be more conscious of what I'm saying. And the more I'm saying it, the more I'm quite comfortable with what comes out, even if people find it a bit, you know, don't really understand. A lot of people, my friends, like, they have no idea what you're talking about, Hilary. It's like, I don't care. So I'm still going to talk about it. And that's what I wouldn't have done before.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have talked about it. I'd have shut up and gone in my little corner, done some little scribbles. So now it's like that is part of my painting. So when I do my courses, I do like little sessions, but they always involve some kind of Reiki. I usually do a heart attunement to kind of help people open up. And then it really is about being ourselves. So all the work I'm doing, it's not technical art per se, although we do look at technical media and technical and techniques and tools to be able to express yourself in the way you want. But it's really about being who we are, and just the recognition that actually the more we are unafraid of being who we are,
yeah,
through the medium of art, because it's a great tool for that, the more we become, you know. So the more whole we become. So that's really, I use it as a tool. It's a solution to get to where I want to be, which is that disintegrating that illusion of separateness, both for myself but also out in the world. So that's kind of my mantra. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. It's funny, actually, as you're talking, I realized that I use this channel for that myself. Like a lot of people are kind of like, how do you just, yeah, it's like, how do you just like sit and talk? And I'm like, I don't know, but there's something very powerful about just expressing yourself out into like public. You
Yes,
know what I mean? It
I know
comes out.
exactly what you mean.
And you're exactly right, is that as I express myself, I feel more myself.
Yeah. And I was
It's
always in
weird.
awe of you because, during, I did my Reiki 3 with you in my master's, and I was still like really holding on. And you were so, I mean, what's the word? Prolific. I mean, stuff you would like, and you're writing,
It's
you're
true.
speaking, but you're writing and you blah, 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 blah. Not that you go blah, 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 blah.
Oh, yes, I do. And you
Sometimes
damn
you
well
do.
know it.
Sometimes you do. That's why we like you. Um, because you're
Yeah.
human.
But I'd actually
Um,
never thought about that as that in
it's
what did you
it's your
say?
root. That's it.
Infold out. What was that expression? That really
Enfolding, and it's the implicate order, and the guy's name is David Bohm, and he calls it
okay.
uh, enfolding and infold. Oh, I'm gonna get it wrong now. I'm gonna
I'm
have to
going to
look
look
again.
that up because
And
that
but it's the implicate order, and we're basically the nub of it is that we are all constantly just unfolding, and then bringing back, and then unfolding again, enfolding, unfolding, enfolding
yeah,
into the universe.
love
And
that.
that we basically, at the end of the day, we are each of us a creator, and that was like, whoa, that was such a revelation. It was a bit like, oh really, do I have, I'm still that, is someone not going to come and do that for me? Do I
Yeah.
really have to do this myself? Well, I
Yes.
really avoided that, I tell you, for 50 years. Even though nobody
Amazing.
would know that I thought like that, that was definitely what was happening.
Yeah.
I
So
would like
now,
hide myself under, hide behind ideas and my brain.
but you're right. It's like that's one part of it, right? So that's the internal part of it, and then how that
Yeah,
comes out. Like it's like a
yeah,
wave in and out, or like the tide in and out.
exactly. And
Beautiful.
that,
I love
and
that.
again, that again, as below, as above, as below, as within, as without. It's like until
Mm,
we've got that, yeah, that movement, that constant energy, we are all energy, until we've got that sort of going, then that we can't really kind of, what does Jung called it, in individuation, right?
yeah. Oh, I'd never thought about it like that. I love that. And it really resonates. It's like, yeah, that is exactly how I feel. It is
Mm,
that whole thing of coming out. And then the next thing, it's almost like once that is out, then the next thing can
mm,
come in. Because
yes,
otherwise you just you're cycling like this. So it
yes,
can't
yeah.
really,
Mm.
I never thought of that
And then the
before.
other,
I love that.
no, and it's lovely. And then the other thing is exactly as you said, unless it's out, it just keeps repeating you and again banging you on the head until you've moved past it. So
Right.
I've had this like idea, which I'm not going to go on about here, for like 7 years, and I was like, oh no, I can't do that. People are going to think I'm crazy, and then it just keeps sort of
Maybe you
slapping me in
should.
the head. I
Hey,
am going to do it.
no, I think you should talk about it here. This is part of
No, 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 I don't want to.
the extra.
I
Come
don't know.
on.
Okay. I mean, basically, fundamentally, it's like, again, based on the principles that we are all energy, is, having a brand system, a business system, a corporate system, it is based on energetic principles. So based on the chakra system. So, having, and again, that sort of polarity. So there's always that dark side, that shadow side, which I think is one of the things we all have to work out. So work on most. So yeah, this is a sort of vision of this, energetic brand principles for corporations that we need to have in the world right now to be able to tackle some of the big human solutions. Is they have to, have you seen Rick, do you know Rick Rubin's The Creative Act? I think
No.
you would love that as well. Anyway, so there's the old alchemic symbol for the sun, and again it has that individual and that universe around it. So again, everything we do at the corporate level, as an individual level, we energetically we can work on different aspects of our energy systems to be able to align the inside with the outside. Because you and I know that a lot of corporates now are still very in internal communications might say what they're checking some boxes, right? We have a lot of greenwashing. We have a lot of systems that are saying, yes, I'm doing this in the world, and yes, of course, I'm doing my CSR, my corporate social responsibility, but they are so misaligned.
Yeah.
They're so misaligned with the real big picture, the real, like, what's happening on the ground, what's my supply system, my supply chain system doing, that sort of thing. So I'm kind of just interested in not going back in talking to, not going back to corporate work, but just to more like write about this sort of stuff, you know, write more of my ideas, just like you do, get some of my ideas out, and
brilliant.
see where they see, you know, somebody else can grab them, whatever. I mean, I think that's just my block of
contribution. Yeah,
contributing.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's my service.
But it really does make a difference. It's kind of like as you put your ideas out there, one, it might trigger or inspire somebody, but two, often it validates somebody. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, oh, yes, there's somebody else out there thinking the same thing. And I do think it's one of those things, because often, you know, we sit there and we think, oh, I'm the odd one, I'm the weird one, I'm the one that doesn't fit in.
Yeah,
And I do find it really fascinating, like the younger generation, because there's so much more talk around learning differences, around ADHD, around, you know, all these. I mean, we're moving into a different topic here, but the fact that they all talk about it makes it feel more normalized. And then it makes people realize that actually, maybe it's not me that's the issue. Maybe it's the education system. Maybe it's the corporate structure that I can't fit into. Maybe. And back in our day, we just felt like we were just odd cogs in the wheel, but maybe it was the wheel that's off
the
and not
wheel that needs,
us.
as Daenerys Targaryen says, the wheel needs to be broken. In
Right?
Game of Thrones. Yeah, it's the wheel, it's the systems. Absolutely right.
Systems are awful.
And that system, so overall, it's systems change that I think is really just is meaty, big. We can all, and it doesn't matter if you're just doing a tiny bit. You know, you don't have to chew off, don't have to change the world tomorrow. Just show up every day and do your little bit. Not even I don't even think about that. I just figure as long as I'm doing work that I love and that suits my kind of synchronizes with my idea or my need to sort of feel that philosophy, then I'm just show up and I'm good.
Yeah,
I don't have to think beyond that, right? Just
right.
But it's exactly as you say. It's continuing that cycle. It's the enfold and it's putting it out, which I really never did.
Yeah.
So yeah, and you know, to come back to Reiki's contribution to that, I have used Reiki as my daily self-care tool that has given me, that I would credit with helping me achieve that sort of internal external alignment, my inner and my outer world becoming more less dissociated.
Yeah. And so you mentioned earlier that you felt that like Reiki was kind of consciousness. So I can't remember whether you mentioned it in the interview or whether we were chatting about it beforehand. So how, when you say it's kind of contributed to that, do you have an idea as to why that's happening, or how you feel like it's working?
I think primarily because we're all built so differently, aren't we? So I think what I love is that it's not a religion for the masses. It's not a set of instructions that everybody follows. I really believe it just, as you always said, it goes where it's needed. And for me, I think it works on healing the parts of my bigger self, regardless at what sort of level that is, emotionally or mentally or spiritually. It just sort of works on just gently kind of I guess showing me the path. So I'm a really big believer, and I never was before, because my whole job was you decide what the outcome's going to be, and then you make a plan to see how you're going to get there. Now it's the opposite. Now it's like I have no idea where I'm going, but I'm going to trust that the breadcrumbs will appear before me through my intuition. So I think the Reiki for me is that very strongly is about kind of just helping me listen to my own intuition. Because again, a right brain characteristic, something that we totally ignore most of the time. Again, because it's inconvenient. So I've learned to listen to that and trust it. So that's how it's working for me. So it's been a really interesting, and I do a lot of writing. I journal. I don't particularly like that word, but I mean I write, I draw, I scribble, and I pull tarot cards. I'm always sort of listening. I've been really trying to find where my breadcrumbs are going, but I'm made myself not need to know beforehand.
Right.
But just trust that I'm being directed by myself in the right direction. Because it feels off if I don't move in the right direction. It's just like, no, wrong path.
Is there a this is something I've been playing with. So is there a possibility, because our minds are very conditioned into thinking there is a path that is almost like, I don't want to say preordained, but that there is a path, right? Whereas previously, when you're talking about this idea of enfolding, infolding, actually the way it appears to me more and more is that we are co-creating. So it's kind of like, as we are, there is no path. As the evolutionary process exhales, it allows for the next inhale, and then depending on the previous exhale is what the next inhale is. So therefore our minds, where they go, oh, well, there's definitely a path, you know, that whole new age thing of, oh, trust your process, trust your path, because there is a higher good. I'm like, really?
No, I know exactly what you're saying. So no, I don't think there's a predestined path, because otherwise I think exactly that. It's like, it's more about, let me rephrase, it's more about the confidence to take the next step based on my making a decision that is based more on a whole brain decision than previously, which was a conditioned mindset that was flawed and biased and probably working to keep my ego happy. So it's more that the choices at every single microsecond that we make will, exactly as you say, then reveal where next. So it could go anywhere. And that's, again, something I, creatively has been just an explosion of, I don't even know the word to describe it. It's just like the world just became so much more interesting, because I have no bloody idea and I don't care. But I know something interesting will show up. The more I make these little decisions on a tiny little level, and it's nothing to do with the big picture, apart from my knowledge that it is about separateness. I just know that that's, for me, that's the one thing that really matters. That's sort of the centering force. But I'm not thinking about that. I'm just trying to feel into it. It's not an intellectual concept. It's a knowing.
So that central concept of separateness, you mean trying to dissolve?
I'm exploring that.
Exploring.
No. So I think that, so your work, like you said, you're talking, I'm through my art, through the work I'm doing, I'm just trying to explore that idea, if you like, that we are just, we are all interconnected, and that, our systems are fragmented, our systems are, so these are sort of just pieces of knowledge and the pattern that I'm aware of. So myself within that is just a piece of, what can I do and I love the word co-creating. It's like, what can I do to co-create something different? Something that speaks to me.
Yeah.
Not anyone else, really, to be honest. I don't, but if I've got something useful to share, I'll share it. But I'm not here to sort of help other, I'm not here to help other people or here to save anybody, or don't care.
Well, it's
not that I don't care. I'm unaware, but I mean, I know that it's the trust that even us just showing up, being ourselves, is enough.
Yeah. Well, and it's almost like where you get to the point whereby showing up and being yourself is the only thing that can happen.
Yes.
Right. Because I do remember, and it's funny actually talking to my girls, because when you're in your 20s, if you can remember way back then, I can only just remember it, but I do remember being incredibly neurotic, right? Like I just, everything, it was almost like this. And I'm listening to my girls now who are in their 20s, and I remember it. And it's this whole thing of, before you can say anything, you have to think about, oh my God, it's so exhausting, right? Like you have to think about what everybody else is expecting you to say, and then what you should be saying in order to fit that. And then blah, 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 blah. Before you even open your mouth, there's all this stuff that you have to consider. And what I've been so delighted with, I guess, and I think it's kind of an aging thing as well, as we go into the crone age of just not giving any fucks. It's just like, whatever. It's like, as you shift into that, that collapse of just saying whatever, excuse my French, the fuck you like, because that's just what is coming out. And then how it's received is kind of not your business. It's like, it just, well, if you don't receive it well, then, you know, I'm sorry. I hope I didn't say anything harmful. I'm trying not to do that, but it's an expression that is there's a bit of filtering, but it's not filtered to the way of what I think you want to hear. It's coming directly from that idea of the source, which is why I love this idea of the inhale, exhale is just coming out. And then, so the filtering is so minimal. Sometimes I'm kind of checking things like, is my language appropriate? Because I do tend to swear quite a lot. And, you know, it's kind of like, is this all right? And is that all right? And sometimes I'm a bit like, oh, I can sometimes upset people because I can be so blunt. But it's more the lack of need to filter who I am.
Yeah. And then there is no need to be liked. So it's not not minding, it's not caring, it's not minding if, it's not well received, it's not liked, you're not liked, not here to make friends. I'm here to just, again, show up, be yourself. Yeah. And it must be horrendous for the young people. It must be so difficult. But I mean, that's their thing that they go through as well.
We went through it too. I mean, I remember going through it and just being so like twisting myself into such a pretzel to be liked. Like I still am a chronic people pleaser, even though I've said all that stuff. Oh yeah, definitely. But I noticed that as well. It's really weird. Like with some people, I notice I put on like the program, the people pleasing program goes in. So having said I don't filter, there's also that program. But the weird thing is I'm really aware of it. And it's with my acknowledgement, if that makes sense. It's kind of like, oh, we're going into people pleasing now. And then we start and then we're like, oh, this is really funny.
Well, that's the observed and the observer, right? That's that you start seeing yourself and okay, yeah. So of course
we're doing this now.
That's cool. That whole thing. Hilarious.
Oh, it is hilarious. But it's the whole puppetry, you know, where you can, I almost feel sometimes I'm walking down the street like a little puppet, like, ooh.
You're funny.
Oh dear. And we've gone off on so many different tangents.
I know.
It's really interesting.
It's really interesting. And I don't know, I'm really grateful for this because it's and it's talking to somebody who talking to somebody like you, I think what you're doing is really helpful as well. Because as you say, it's a process to help you get your ideas out, but not for the sake of the ideas, but because it when you're saying it, you're actually kind of observing it and thinking, well, does that feel right? And then again, you go on to your next progression. So I'm a big believer that we don't need to know, it's not about answers, is it? It's about getting more and more comfortable with whatever we're saying rings true and is really aligned, I think. And because we're all so different, you're the only person that can really be the judge of that.
Absolutely. And it evolves. Like, you know, even from 2015, when you would have been doing the online course, I mean, that the fervor, shall we say, with which I used to talk about, I know this is a laugh towards a lot of my Reiki masters, are like that, right? They're kind of like, oh my God, you used to get so upset with us when we didn't do the attunements properly. And now you're just like, if I can do them yourself, it's fine. You don't have to do attunement. That's just so 2015. What are you still doing?
But that's what I love about you. I mean, and I guess that's why you're my Reiki master, and I love coming back to you and talking to you because I get that. I'm aligned with the way that your mind expands and changes, and I love that. You know, that's freedom to me. That's real. I feel liberated, not being stuck in a box. We know hardly anything about our minds, and or the universe. Most of it's dark matter or dark energy or whatever the scientists are calling it these days. There's just so much, and I'm a real believer that we will, we'll get there eventually if we stop going off at tangents politically and in the sciences and with art, and but we do need that whole brain to be able to see the big picture. And I fear that we're not in a good shape in that respect. So I think as long as I'm here on this earth, this is the job that I will be doing. I will just continue to push.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I've got you to call up. I need
to have a good old gossip with.
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. I've kind of lost track as to how long we've been chatting, to be fair.
It's an hour.
Well, but we started the recording a little bit later than that. So I would say it's probably quite a good time to wrap up. But
yeah.
So give us a little bit of insight in terms of where you feel your offering is now around Reiki and how people can get, I mean, like, are you offering workshops and stuff like that people can get hold of you with, or is it more?
I'm going to focus on this idea of being ourselves. I'm considering how I teach Reiki. So I haven't been offering for maybe, I moved. I haven't been offering for about a year or so. I sold my Reiki bed, and actually the person I sold it to, Svetlana, sold it back to me just recently. So it's coming back. But I don't think
it's a bit like Reiki 3. You can't get rid of it.
Can't get rid of it, the bloody thing. It's in my art studio at the moment. So I think Reiki as a conduit to that is really important. I don't know how I'm going to teach it. I don't. I want to think harder. I think it would be definitely integrated into some kind of that creator, as you say. We're all co-creating, so attached to an idea. As opposed to Reiki. So I don't give Reiki anymore. I realize I'm so somatic that I wasn't very. I've got a lot of work to do on myself before I continue giving Reiki to people as a paid service. I don't think I'll be doing that again. I like to teach Reiki. I think it's a great tool. I just need to I think I need to spend a bit more time thinking about how it's going to fit in. As I said, all my sessions usually have a Reiki component. I'll do a heart attunement, so again to apply to people's to help people expand their minds.
So are you offering tool. Are you offering kind of art workshops and stuff like that at the moment?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah. I have a studio. So, yes, sorry. I have a studio, and that's and so I do lovely sessions. They include some meditation, but mostly visioning. And then we're working again through our own energy centers. So I'm going to be doing a sort of little short, maybe 4 weekly chunks. I've just done one on releasing our sacral energy, and a lot of root landscape colors, losing collage, etc. I'm going to be going into a solar plexus one soon, which is all about again individuation, myself, and we'll be using lots of sort of identity kind of tools, and again lots of techniques like collage, printing, various different tools and techniques to put together a picture of our fragments and who we are. So I like that idea that I'm going again through that energy system, and just saying that actually if I believe that this is a nice framework a lens through which to work on some of our fears and our blocks. So I do that.
Amazing. And obviously you're based in Singapore.
I'm based in Singapore.
And do you do anything online? Like, would you?
I haven't got my crap together on that, to be honest. I just look at you and think, how do you sit and write that? I will do one day. I'm just not. I think because for me, I've got this intellectual kind of idea. I'm trying to experience it. I like teaching. I'm just kind of learning how to express that in the best way. But I will do one day. But I'm not ready there. I'm not ready to do that yet, because I'm really enjoying the one-on-one. And it's giving me a lot of tuition back.
Yeah, brilliant. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So I will stick the link. Anybody that wants to get hold of Hilary, I'll stick the link in the blurb below. And just the last thing really is to say thank you so much for spending time with me and having this chat. It's kind of gone off on I think a really interesting direction. I think a lot of people will mull over this. It just feels like a kind of really important discussion. So thank you so much for that.
And thank you.
Yeah. And we'll speak soon. And to the rest of you, bye. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Elaine.